And we are the Non-Prophets. I'm Denis Loubet, along with Jamie Boone, Kevin Stein, and Jenna Belk. And we're not just coming to you live from the Free Thought Library in Austin, Texas on the 3rd of November, 2019. No, it's like you're right here in the room, sitting across from us. It's like we're in your head, feeding information directly into your friggin' brain. In fact, we're so close we're overlapping. This show is totally owned by the Atheist Community of Austin, a non-profit educational organization for the promotion of positive atheism and the separation of church and state. And they completely own us. They are the total boss of us. We can't even shit a nickel without permission in fucking triplicate. I mean, forget it. Our DNA has the ACA'S frickin' barcode written right into it. If you want to learn more about how we're total puppets of the ACA, you can call their voicemail at 512-220-6561 or visit their website at www.atheist-community.org. The Non-Prophets broadcast live not only every first and third Sunday of each month from 3 to 4:30 Central Time, but it's like it's a continuous 48-hour per day, 14-day per week feed directly into the thing that makes you, you. And that thing can join with the group mind that is the Non-Prophets chat room by following the directions at www.nonprophetsradio.com. So, sever all ties to your physical existence and prepare to have your very being supplanted by the Non-Prophets.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
All
so
right.
Dennis, you feeling okay with your life choices and decisions?
I was just
like you make
coming
your
up.
own-
I have a one-word description of my intros, and this one is exaggerated.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
it's funny, but at one point, I have no tattoos, but at one point, people in the back were joking that we should get tattoos on our asses that said "property of the ACA." so there's a little bit of truth to this, in
Yes.
case you're wondering. So
Why would anybody even want to shit a nickel? I don't understand.
You know, I'm not sure where that came from.
I don't either.
I feel like it's.
It just seemed right.
It just seems like it's the principle of the thing, right? Like I should be permitted to shit a nickel if I
Indeed.
want, and no one can stop me because this is America.
That's
and
right.
freedom.
I'm not going to stop you.
I'm
Nickel shitting is
I'm gonna drive a
allowed
big
here.
truck, rock, flag, and eagle. You know.
Yeah,
you get that
whatever
right.
does it for you, I guess.
Yeah. Shitting. Hey, listen,
All right.
don't yuck someone's yum. All right, that's.
Welcome, Jenna Belk.
Hi.
Yes.
It's good to have you back.
Hello.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been a little while, and you have really kind of blown up around here.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I don't know. I think you and V might be running this place by this time next year.
Whoa, let's slow down a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I'm okay with it. I'm just saying.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, that's
I wanted to include special guest, but it broke the flow. so-
Aw.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Matt
fun.
Dilla who? That's
That's right.
I think it'll be a while before he's not associated. A long time.
that sounded ominous.
We'll see.
Have a nice day. Enjoy your next
Yeah.
24 hours.
Actually, hosting the first time tomorrow, or second time.
Yeah.
First official time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Who are you going to be with?
Objectively Dan.
Oh, that's
Wanted.
cool. All right.
Sweet.
So it's good. I'll have somebody that's strong to back me up. Because I'm so new. I'm like, I need help sometimes.
Ow, you're fine.
I don't want to carry it all on my
I
shoulders.
can't do it.
He's got good energy. He's
He's a good-
very
yeah.
exuberant.
And he's patient, so it should be interesting.
Yes.
Should be-
Yeah, that'll be fun.
It's always
That'll-
good to have a
that'll be
patient
fun to watch.
person.
Yeah, it's the variety of personalities.
Except patient zero. You don't want that.
Yeah.
I guess, how have y'all been since I wasn't here last time, so
That's
it
true.
feels like it's been quite a while
It
for me.
has.
It has been quite a while since we shared this table, my friend. Many battles have been waged against procrastination and other things for me.
Indeed, friends lost. Alliances made.
Alliances made, wars ended with treaties like civilized people.
Yes.
It's been very medium on average.
Yeah. I hear you have a birthday coming up, though.
Dun,
Yes,
dun,
as
dun.
at time of recording, it was 2 days ago. So It's
Boom!
Boom. The day of my biological birth, the anniversary of it was a couple days ago.
You'll have to forgive me. I haven't been on Facebook in like, I don't know, 2 weeks or something.
Oh,
so.
it's fine. I think it's still on Facebook. It probably is.
And just to make sure, this is your Earth birthday, isn't it?
My Earth birth, yes.
Good, that's good.
It's not from, it's Earth.
That's right, you humans and your birthdays.
We call it naked birthday in AA.
Naked birthday?
Oh, well.
Interesting.
Okay. That's good, because my atheist birthday is a different day. It's September 30th.
Yeah.
My naked birthday, I'm going to start using that. My naked birthday is October 31st, so there's that.
That's the best birthday ever.
Dennis,
Okay.
you got anything? How you been doing?
Oh, not much.
Yeah.
Just been doing paintings.
Oh, paintings. Are they
Yes.
available on some
A commissioner,
website?
a person commissioned a couple of paintings from me with the stipulation, do anything you want. So I'm doing anything I
Wow.
want. That's cool.
Hey, that's cool.
Yeah. Do they have
What are you
more-
going to do?
I'm doing two kind of fantasy paintings.
That's cool.
Like an action
Strangely, just to make them different, I'm doing them anthropomorphic, so it's animal people with
Cool.
in fantasy settings.
like petting zoo
Should be
people
cool.
style?
I have no idea what that means.
So it's okay. So it's the name if you are particularly if you're on TV tropes or whatever. It's the character is a human in every way except that like they're a
looks
cat.
like a cat.
Yeah,
right.
So
yes,
they're
it's
bipedal.
precisely
and
that.
It's precise. Okay, and then depending on the show, they'll have some puns or
Oh, yeah.
they'll drink
Yeah.
Cat Bernet wine or something.
Right.
That's cute.
They'll be or I love the ones in BoJack. They're an agent, so they're talking, hey honey or whatever, and they've just got like a thing that they bat at on their desk. It's great.
That's great.
They're named Princess Carolyn just because. So
Yeah, that would
That's what
be
I'm
daunting.
doing right now.
That would be daunting for me to just be told anything you want. Like,
Yeah.
I need some kind of restriction and some
That was
kind
very
of
rare.
path
I was gonna say.
to kind of focus.
Yes, mostly people tell me what to draw, and I
Yeah.
draw it because I'm an illustrator.
Well, at least something, general, like people or landscapes or
yeah.
abstract or something.
Yeah, luckily I had an idea of what I want to do,
Yeah,
so
that's
I'm doing that.
He drew a triangle.
Hey, I'm not the judge of what art is.
It's going to be an expensive triangle.
I wasn't going to ask how much you made. Is there a place that people could go online to see your work if they wanted to see your
more
work
of my art
online?
can be seen at DenisLoubet.com. Yes.
Good job,
All right,
Jamie.
cool.
And I have a store at MainQuestStudios.com.
So not side quest, main quest.
MainQuestStudios.com. There's all sorts of weird gaming stuff on there. So
Yeah, and it should be in the Chiron
Yay.
or the lower third. I'll be
Cool.
hip and say that.
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Well, hey, if you don't mind, I've actually got two things I want to get out of the way.
What you got?
Real quick.
Cool. Are they asking Jenna how her week was? Is that
Well,
for equality?
actually, yes, we should do that.
Hey Jenna.
How my week was?
How was your since the last time you've been on the nonprofit?
That's a good stretch.
That's
That's
a good stretch.
Yeah.
Describe everything that happened in chronological order.
Oh my God,
Go.
that's been like 6 months.
That's too long.
That's way too
Cut
long.
it down to one day. How was yesterday?
Cool.
Wow.
No pressure. Just describe anything you want.
I don't see. You got to narrow it down for me.
Yeah.
All right, so
See?
Oh.
describe an anthropomorphized fantasy
Oh,
painting
God.
that you would like to see.
I don't know. I spent a lot of time having to learn about myself because becoming an atheist shattered so many walls that I had built around the world that I then had the opportunity to start learning about who I actually am because I'd sobered up a year before. And so I had a lot of time on my hands and I started learning, and that's kind of what led me to get here. But the past 6 months, since I've been on the shows and I've found a way to volunteer without having to be here, every day, I've had the time to learn about my own mental health issues and about how to be mindful, because that's really, really hard for me to pay attention to what I'm doing and control my emotions better. It's really, really hard. So it's interesting learning how to do that with being invited on shows and the stress of it, and learning at the same time. It's very, very stressful, but it's very rewarding. So I'm kind of under the impression that, hey, I've been doing this for like 6 months already and I'm still going. So I'll just kind of wait and see.
Keep going.
I'm sure I'll get used to it.
We're pretty laid back here, as you.
It's very easy going here. Nobody's putting a lot of pressure on me. Everybody's being very compassionate and understanding. So I'm really grateful to all of y'all. So. But it's fun. It's fun.
You're welcome. Yeah. I always like being thanked for not doing stuff. It's the easiest stuff to do.
Yeah, that's a good feeling.
Yeah.
All right.
So you had two things you wanted to get out of the way.
Yeah. So just real quick, I have a new podcast obsession that I want to tell everyone about. If you're a fan of the Cognitive Dissonance podcast,
yeah, I am.
Their last episode they had on Knowledge Fight, which is a play on Alex Jones's InfoWars. They are fantastic. They're so good. I've been binging them for like the last 2 or 3 days now.
Nice.
And you should definitely check them out. And I think, honestly, you should start with probably their April 15th through 16th, 2013 episode. And it's going over the Alex Jones's coverage of the Boston Marathon bombing as it happened in real time. Because it happened,
wow.
He got word of it during one of his broadcasts.
And so he just stayed on the air throughout.
Yeah, and it's actually, it's probably 4 episodes long, and it's breaking down Alex Jones's coverage as more and more information came in within that, block of days.
Interesting.
And it is so fascinating. I forgot a lot of the ins and outs of, how that played out.
Listen again.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that definitely is really, really interesting, getting to see how Alex reacted to things in the moment and the way that he spun things and the narratives that he went off into.
Yeah.
Wow. And then they get to, in hindsight, go back and lay out, okay, this was an obvious lie. Here's where he just didn't have the information and he speculated wildly. All kinds of stuff. It's been really fascinating.
Yeah,
cool.
That sounds fascinating. Do they have a good Alex Jones impersonator?
One of them is actually pretty decent, yeah.
Okay.
Well, then you got Jamie hooked.
Well, no, I mean, no. I was gonna say because I know this person named Alice Jones, who does a mean quasi impression, but riffs.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, have you seen the? Yeah,
I have.
This brace yourselves, fans of stuff that is produced.
Yeah. So there's that, and also last time I was on, which was I guess episode before last, I went over a lot of kind of comparing the Democratic Party and the Republican Party in some of their what makes them so different. But I feel like I was a little bit too. I didn't quite finish my overarching thought, and I think I came off a little bit more partisan than I ought to have.
Okay,
That's fair.
I think the overarching point that I wanted to make was, if you were still in the camp of, well, no, there's really no difference because, well, they're both corrupt, and so my vote doesn't matter. Or if you are in any way in that camp, stop. There is a clear distinction between the two, and your vote does, it matters. And also, again, I probably came off incredibly partisan. I didn't want to give that impression because one of the things that's actually kind of a pet peeve for me, I hate the bumper stickers that just say, vote Democrat. I hate them. I'm like, you hack. Come on, man.
Why?
Like, because to me, the policy matters more than the party. I mean,
But
the
how
party,
do you put that on a bumper sticker?
You don't. Policy. How about policy over party?
I think mostly he doesn't like probably bumper stickers in general.
Yeah. It just is very hacky to me. I'm like, yeah, one party is,
At the moment.
for the most part, generally significantly better than the other, but I feel like policy specifics
So, but isn't
are more important than just party loyalty.
Yeah.
isn't Democrat more than just, you know, a side? Isn't it more of a political view?
That's the way that it's becoming now.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Kind of
and
depends on who you ask.
It depends on who you ask a little bit, but there's definitely a full ethos that is being sold as what it is to be a Republican, right? People that are what Republicans were in the 80s or 90s before stuff really kicked off, right? But pre 9/11, you have pre 9/11 and you got pre 2010, basically, as your metrics. Pre 9/11, our politics were much more sane because we weren't dealing with like one of 3 or 4, depending on how you count, times that the United States had dealt with people taking any kind of military action on our soil. So as an American people, like, there was an act of terrorism on U.S. soil, it's the end of the world, right? And 3,000 people is a lot of people to die. But that basically just changed the U.S.'s view of foreign intervention. Was like, well, if they're going to come over here, we're going to go over there with an army. Even though it was sort of individuals with an ideology rather than a...
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to go to the wrong place.
So
with an
because there's a like well-defined, like online, there's people that define themselves by who gets mad at them, and they're called trolls. But in the political ethos, with basically the Republican Party being taken over by theocrats, it's being sold as, no, I'm a real conservative, I'm a real Republican. That means Jesus and Trump all the way, right? It's the party of Trump now because he uses fascistic policies and cult leader techniques, basically.
The more extreme, the more real.
Well, yeah, depending on who you ask. To me, Mitt Romney is a Republican of the Republican Party. We used to have a conservative party in this country, so I used to be able to say things like, I don't know, things along the lines of H.W. Bush. I'm not a fan of him as an individual, but I mean like the outlook on the world. I know this isn't going into a lot of detail, but there's that. And I'm going to now get to the end of this point that's supposed to be piggybacking on his idea, which is, and so in response, the idea of what it is to be a Democrat is being sold, because that's changing as well, right? In the 80s and 90s, both parties sort of embraced a neoliberal economic view of the way that the world and international markets should interact, right? It wasn't a Republican president that signed NAFTA. It was Bill Clinton. And that sort of marks a change in the way the Democratic Party operated, right? That year, the Democratic Party removed the abolition of the death penalty from their party platform, right? They adapted to what was around them, in part because the Republicans were doing lots of crazy stuff and going after racism. I know that you didn't intend this to turn into a rant for me.
I really didn't.
And I'm gonna bring it to a close real quick. But basically, there's a new sort of generation of Democrats that isn't having it, that's done with anything corporate, that's done with anything big business, where the word corporation is a slur. And that progressive identity, the idea of, well, of fucking course you're in favor of gay marriage, right? They've stopped saying marriage equality. They've just said back off of gay marriage because they recognize that no one's coming for straight marriage, right? That's the back and forth between, you know, all lives matter, Black lives matter sort of situation. But that's why there's more of that ethos that I think you're picking up of, to be a Democrat is a view rather than a political party.
Well, I think, you know, I can't completely agree with you about the bumper sticker, because
Fair
it's
enough.
basically it's triage. I mean, we can have the same discussions of purity and progressivism and all this stuff,
Sure.
while the country isn't burning down. And, you know, I'm all for that.
I was going to say, yeah, to me, the elections take place in the, well,
Yeah, I just don't like the simplicity.
Yes.
And the whole party loyalty aspect of the way that politics is done in this country. It grates on me quite a bit.
Well,
and also, I didn't want to come off overly partisan on a show
Right.
we're a 501c3
Yes.
nonprofit. I want to make it very clear.
Yeah.
I
factor.
think that policy is more
Yeah.
important.
Another factor is the way we vote ensures two parties. And so,
Well,
if you're not voting for one, you're voting for the other.
well, so there's
yeah.
that, but it's, I somewhat disagree with that because it appears that you're laying, I disagree with the sentiment that I believe that I've just heard from you, which is that the reason that we have a two-party system in this country is because of the way we vote.
Yes.
I disagree. It's because of the way the system is set up. It's because we have, we vote with districts, we vote for first past the post.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, I thought you were talking about voter behavior.
No,
rather
no,
than
I'm talking
okay.
about the mechanics we have of voting
Yeah.
determines that we have
Yes.
two parties.
Yeah, because I was going to say, my response to people that go, oh, we'll just vote third party. And
Yeah,
go, wait,
no, there's no such thing in a pass the post.
first past the post system
past the
with
post
districts.
system.
You have to
There's no
change.
such thing as a
you
third
have to
party.
change the system.
Yeah, we got to have something like other more enlightened countries have.
Politically sophisticated. Sorry, what were you saying?
I was just going to ask, would you feel about a "Don't vote Republican" sticker?
I would find that equally grating.
Really?
Yeah.
What about a vote Republican sticker?
Again,
Well,
Equally
but
great.
the reason that I'm
There's no-
confused by
It's the simplicity you despise.
I'm just checking whether there's any partisanship there. Yeah.
well, the reason that I'm confused by why you really don't like it is because when you're voting in that booth, they narrow it down to Republican or Democrat or something else. And so
Yeah.
it's like, well, if you don't know anything about politics, then at least start with something. And
Yeah.
I think that that's what they're kind of meaning with that kind of a bumper sticker is at
yeah,
least
I guess.
start,
I mean, it's a
so
Oh.
Our producer has just asked us, what if Donald Trump had a D in front of his name? I think we should, for the sake of
our
of
501c.
well, for the sake of our
can't answer
501c,
that?
I was going to say, and also not getting demonetized because there are words
Right.
and
Yeah.
sentences you can't say.
I think I can safely.
Demonetized.
Yeah, I was going to say, our producer has now said, any candidate that you wouldn't like if they were on your party. So
Right, there you go.
this brings up the polling. If you've ever seen a poll, our audience, about what
Yeah, I
proportion
couldn't do that.
what proportion of the United States would vote for an atheist, right? That's from a poll that I think it's Pew has done every year for 5,000 years, basically. 10,000, I don't know, forever. 10,000 years, where it's if your party elected an otherwise qualified candidate who just happened to be blank, would you vote for them? And they have, black, evangelical, Mormon, atheist, Jew, Muslim, everything in there, and
woman.
woman's in there. Sorry, I forgot that was a question because I'm so woke.
Good cover.
There's binders full of them.
I'm sure,
God.
my garage is full of binders of women. Which works as a joke if you've been in my garage. There's boxes full of old binders that contain paper, which is what are in binders, as opposed to women. I forgot where I was going with the initial thing.
Tighten it up,
because
man.
I'm gonna just let
has
that
all been
stay there.
The politics episode
Yeah.
of the
Say-
non-profits.
And with that, we end our introduction.
Yes, I will-
Sorry, what were you
You
saying?
just had 2 points you wanted to make.
I will again distill it back down to I think policy over party is, for my view,
I agree.
more important.
Yes, I don't vote for parties that are actively trying to kill me.
That as well.
Yeah.
The reason that
There.
party matters if your concern is policy is that parties determine vote on and publish their party platform.
That's right.
As a
Yeah.
statement of their values.
The overwhelming majority of voters vote along party lines, and they just do that kind of unconsciously.
Yeah.
And that's,
Well, I do that
I think that,
because I don't know anything else. I don't know enough about each of the candidates. There's always so many
Yeah.
candidates.
Yeah, it's
and I
tough.
don't know enough about every single one of them that I go down the line.
yeah, I think that going down the line encourages not learning more about
Yeah.
politics in general, which is
Well,
another
so
part of
I'm at
what-
the point
yeah.
where I'm starting to learn about
Yeah.
politics, but I'm not at the point where I am educated about politics. So what do I do in this election?
Research.
Like the one that is going on.
In Austin.
that's up to you, and we cannot engage in politicking whatsoever.
Research.
Well, I'm not asking you to tell me
Research.
who to vote for. I'm
Yeah,
asking you to
that's
tell
all you
me
can do.
how I can.
The one going on right now doesn't have. You're talking about the city.
Yes.
Of, those. There's not candidates on the ballot.
There's not candidates.
No, they're issues on the ballot.
Oh, right.
I'm
So it's
pretty
like prop
sure
A
at
or
this
prop
point-
B or
Yeah.
prop C or
Yeah.
whatever.
Basically,
And then I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
how do I know C, B, A, C, B, C? I don't know. How am I supposed to remember that?
I mean, you've gotten them in the right order, so there's that.
Find someone whose judgment you trust, if nothing else.
I think it's
Well, like
purposely convoluted.
My father-in-law sent me an email of, you know what, I went through and I did the research and this is what I would vote for and let me know what y'all think. Even then, I was like, that's so much. I'm like,
Yeah.
man,
It's
that's a lot. So,
Well, so
The complexity of modern day, yes.
yeah,
It's-
Jenna, I would say
modern
recent-
civilization is.
Yeah.
I don't consider myself educated voter either.
Neither do I, but I consider myself one who.
That's
tried.
why single issue voting is so popular.
right? Because it's
Well,
easier.
that and people have strong feelings. What
Yeah,
I would say
yeah.
is recently, Jenna, you, if I can conjecture correctly, possibly, you seem to have taken a greater interest in, I suppose, social issues isn't the right word, but global issues. For example, global warming, and things like that. That took research, and the best policies and responses to that take research. The same is true for poverty, for in the city of Austin, the size of the homeless population, tax policy, etc., which there's a philosophical underpinning for representative democracy rather than direct democracy. But yeah, being informed and doing the right thing takes a lot of work, and that's part of why lots of people don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't be that guy.
I'm trying not to be, but at this very second,
It's so
I'm that gal.
hard. It's so
Yeah,
difficult.
don't be that
yeah. No, it's
It
well,
is.
because I'm trying to learn so many things. I'm trying to learn more about climate change. I'm trying to learn more about, theism. I'm trying to learn more about just so many different things. Oh my God.
Well, yeah, there's
So can you
Shortcuts.
bring a cheat sheet in there? Can you go and do the research and be like, okay, on this one I want to vote this way,
Not
on
to
this
the-
one I want to
well,
vote
they're not
this
going
way.
to clear out your pockets, so
Yeah, you can bring a note.
Yeah, you can bring it out. You cannot bring things that are basically politicking. So you can't bring a sign with you that is promoting your candidate
Right.
to the poll. Because
But
the
I
polling-
can bring a piece of paper that says,
That you read. Yes.
Here's the
Okay.
advice. Here's the advice I'm going to give. Don't follow this advice because I'm actually not sure what the election laws are in your state. One of the things that I have heard that other people that are not me have done, perhaps that you should research whether or not it's legal, is write the note
you
and then
hedged
fold
the
it up
fuck
and
out
put
of
it in your pocket, and then
"Ooh,
just
can I put it
walk
on my
in.
phone?"
It depends on your polling. I think that depends on your polling place. I've been told not to do that.
Yeah,
I
they
think.
don't want you pulling out electronics.
Because the
Why?
idea is that you are supposed to know who you're voting for, so you should memorize all 60,000 names.
Probably
That's
there's
asking
some
too
le-
much. I can't
There's
do that.
probably also some paranoia
See,
about
somewhere-
you're using an electronic
That's-
voting machine and pulling out an electronic thing. Maybe
Well, I was
you're
gonna say-
Oh, you're
hacking
ma-
the computer.
oh.
That's much less paranoia, and at the present moment, I think I actually support paper ballots.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Like, I mean,
I wish they would go back to
knowing
paper
that
ballots.
and a bunch of magicians, paper ballots don't seem that safe to me. But
I think they're
if
safer
if you
than
make people count the votes naked, then they can't.
yeah.
Sorry.
We have to vote on that.
All right, but but you have to count the vote.
Like,
No, you can vote fully clothed. I'm going to wear a burqa, so
Like a cocaine distribution
Not actually.
place.
Yeah. I wouldn't know, sir.
Well, it's always what it looks like in the movies. It's always
Wrote it.
you
Yep.
know.
Oh, just the movies. That's
Yeah,
oh,
it's always naked women cutting up and doing the packaging the coke. That's what it's all.
Weird.
Come on,
Okay.
somebody else back me up. That's what it always is in movies
I
and TV.
hadn't seen
I
that.
hadn't seen that.
Yeah, Kevin, I was going to say, yeah, it's just, you were in a feverish state, and so you thought it was TV. It's fine.
Okay,
It's fine. We don't judge here.
let's go ahead and pivot to the first story.
Let's pivot to the first. All right. I have.
All right, so what do we got?
Oh, were you taking the first
No,
story?
no, go for it.
All right,
Go
yeah.
for it.
That's right. I'm taking the first story.
Take the first
So-
story, man.
Our first story, most white evangelicals will support Trump regardless of personal conduct, a poll finds.
Oh, if
So-
you guys are sick of politics,
That's not
then-
surprising.
Yeah, I was going to say. So let's go to graphic 11, if you can, please, booth people.
Dun, dun, dun.
So here, let me finish this report real quick. Impeachment proceedings haven't diminished white evangelical support for President Donald Trump. Most white evangelicals say Trump's personal conduct makes no difference in or increases their support for him, a new poll shows. The Public Religion Research Institute released its 10th annual American Values Survey, the organization's flagship research report, on Monday at a rollout event held at the progressive-leaning think tank Brookings Institution in Washington, D.C. The data is based on interviews with 2,527 Americans taken in two different waves conducted between the end of August and mid-October to take into account the announcement of a House impeachment inquiry initiated against Trump on September 24th, based on accusations he pressured foreign leaders to advance his personal and political interests.
So it's pretty up to date then.
Yes. It's hot
Wow.
off the presses. We are in the single digits of this month, and it concluded last month as far as the polls. So I don't know whether they already pulled up and then dropped the graphic because I was reading. Oh, okay.
They did.
So, yeah. But so to talk about it, the figure 11, yeah, there it is. All right,
There you go.
in color, is the percent who say, the personal conduct that affects them. So party affiliation isn't everything, but you can tell looking at the second line, the Republican Party, and looking at the first line under because there's All Americans, Republican, Independent, Democrat. I don't know where they find people that still identify as independent because they haven't asked me, but the fifth line down, white evangelical Protestant, is the most telling line. This is the strongest base of support for this administration. And just about half, 47%, does not make a difference of white evangelical Protestant. His personal conduct does not make a difference to them.
I mean, he can make an ass out of himself. He can embarrass the nation.
Yeah, it's
in any and every way, and they are still going to back him 100%, no matter what.
Because they're single issue voters mostly.
Yes,
Yes,
because he's fulfilling God's prophecy,
Right.
because he's chosen by God, right? Like looking
Right.
below that, just look the difference between white evangelical Protestant and white mainline Protestant. Only 36% of white evangelical Protestants say
Mainline.
that what?
Mainline.
No. Only 36. Oh, shit. That's different. Oh, I was citing a different statistics. 36% say it makes a difference to them, but 36% of white evangelical Protestants say that it makes them less likely to support him. 1 in 3 only, right? Whereas more than half
Right.
of white mainline Protestants say this makes them less likely to support them, and a whopping 80% of black Protestants, surprise on the difference there, not at all, say it makes them less likely to vote for him. Yeah. I'd also just like to, at the very end there, the unaffiliated percent that say they're less likely to support him is actually lower than the black Protestant one. I think
Which,
that's
I mean, unaffiliated, that probably,
religiously unaffiliated. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. It's just startling to see, but is unfortunately not it's startling in a way, but unfortunately not that shocking or
No.
surprising
Right.
or outside the
It
norm.
seems like evangelicals don't have any values other than
Jesus.
Jesus, yeah.
I mean, like
Punish the people you don't like.
Law and Order Protestant. Oh, if
Get
they're
yeah.
like Law and Order Protestant, I think.
I mean,
works,
they
but
backed him about what 80% of white evangelicals. So
more than
voted
I think it
for
was
Trump.
81.
Yeah, 80, 81.
He had higher support among white evangelicals than President W. Bush, who is actually a religious person.
Voting evangelicals.
Voting. That's true.
Right.
It's like when people say, "Oh, most white women voted for him." Like most people
No,
that showed
voting. Most people who vote.
up, voters.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're kind of the only group that he has left that won't abandon him.
yeah.
You know,
Well, that's a big group.
I was gonna say you're either in specifically the cult of Trump, or you're in the basically cult-like denominations that encompass the entirety of your worldview and self-worth and self-identity and everything that you do everywhere. There's a specific prayer to say when you pull out a chair or walk through a door. You know.
That's a cemetery.
Yeah.
This is
That's
what a
Is there a
massive-
specific cemetery prayer?
Yes, and I never learned it. I just said the Our Father.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, this is what a massive bubble
Yeah.
creates.
Yeah.
It's the people that think, oh, there's nothing in the Mueller report that paints our president in a bad light.
Right, sure.
Like it literally
Ay, ay, ay.
it literally does the opposite.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, there are a few more. Do you want to go over those as well?
The other statistics. Yes. Okay. So let's get all right. Well, let's get figure 10, shall we? Which is Trump encouraging white supremacists by party affiliation. Percent saying Trump's decisions and behavior as president have encouraged white supremacist group, discouraged white supremacist group, not had an impact either way.
What's the difference between white evangelicals and black evangelicals?
Oh, they have the black Protestants all together.
Okay, yeah.
So they didn't separate the black.
This is whether or
Mainline.
not Trump has encouraged white supremacy.
Yeah. So the white evangelical Protestants, only 21% of them say that Trump's decisions and behavior have encouraged white supremacist groups. Not
That's wrong.
whether he
Wow.
likes them, not whether he is a white supremacist, whether his decisions and behavior have encouraged white supremacist groups and
Or normalized.
or normalized,
Yeah.
yeah. And right
that is a
around
bulletproof
4 out of 5 have said either it's discouraged or had no impact either way. The vast majority of white evangelical Protestants, 70%, saying it's had no impact. Nothing race-based in what the president has said. Just under half of white mainline Protestants, 45%, have said this has encouraged white supremacist groups. But a whopping 78% of black Protestants have said, no, this has encouraged white supremacist groups or his
Right.
decisions and behavior.
Yeah, probably because they're feeling the effects more than the
Right.
white
Yeah.
evangelicals.
You know
are.
what? One might think
There's a
so.
freaking target.
I was going
White
to say,
privilege.
I feel like the next question to ask is, what relevant statistics could be looked up other than this? Because this is a determination of the American people's image of the world, how they feel reality is.
Right.
We might actually turn to statistics like how much has the activity of white supremacist groups changed or not changed or increased or decreased. And that's an additional thing to look at because it ain't great. Just Southern Poverty Law Center would be a fantastic group to look at for that. God, I don't know. I've been running ramshot over you for these statistics.
We don't have to go over all of them if you don't want to.
Oh no, I just didn't want to exclude people. I mean, it's also interesting to see where Hispanic Protestants and Catholics fall. Right, I'm not going to equivocate between Catholics and Hispanics because I went to school with a whole bunch of white Catholics.
Right.
They exist. There's just a bunch of Catholics everywhere all the time. Hey.
Ex-Catholic.
What's up? You know, I mean, it's not true in this case, but the bet would be good that you were named Mary. So There's like an entire generation because the Pope said there weren't enough women named Mary. So 60% or something.
That's so dumb.
Were named Mary. And I'm like, that means more than one per family. Like, it might have been 40, but still, that's, it's like Muhammad is the most popular first name. It's because every firstborn male, you're supposed to name Muhammad or something, or it's tradition. But it's interesting because the difference in whether or not personal conduct is going to change someone's voting opinion and whether or not they see his decisions and behavior as encouraging white supremacy, I mean, it appears to be largely affected by race.
Gosh.
And,
Who'd have thunk it?
and religion. Because
Golly.
the most predictive, like if you wanted to determine whether or not a person was likely to have voted for Trump, this is the best way I can explain this. But you could only ask them one question other than, did you vote for Trump? The most telling question you could determine is, do you believe that the United States is or should be a Christian nation and run that way? And the answer, yes, that
Of course.
correlates positively with having voted for or continuing to support Donald Trump, or having voted for. They didn't do continuing support in that particular survey. They're literally voting for theocracy,
Yeah.
just saying.
Best way to deal with racism is Bronze Age morality.
I was going to say, and whatever information you need to register to vote, wherever you are, exists online somewhere. So Google it. So there's that. I don't know. I don't know what to read into the Catholics' statistics here. I don't know why it is super interesting to me, but because it's more like there's a larger proportion of them of Catholics that respond to this survey than white mainline Protestants that believe that his decisions and behavior have encouraged white supremacist groups. And it's sort of like...
Do you believe that?
That do.
That he has?
So 56% of Catholics responding to the survey believe that his decisions and behavior encouraged white supremacist groups.
Interesting.
Whereas 45 among white mainline Protestants.
Yeah, I wouldn't have expected that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have either. I don't know what it is. It's sort of like a weird read on, I guess, traditional values. Let's speculate wildly about what other people think.
Can I say what I think? And this is obviously speculation.
This is the right show for that.
Yeah.
I think that it's because the more extreme the religion, the more they're fading out.
Could be.
Oh, and now you're on Vern's shit list. No, you're fine. You're fine.
So you're actually right. I think you're right on the money there because we've covered other polls in past episodes that talk about that show very clearly that white evangelical block is it literally is kind of dying out, but at the same time they're more powerful than ever because they have more money than ever.
Well, because I think that the people who are less extremists that are still trying to hold on to the religion, which I think is most people, are finding other religion, that's more accepting, the rainbow flag in front of the church. And, that's where they're going.
Right.
That's what we're promoting is because it's better than they think that it's right.
Yeah. I mean, it's the people that want to hold on to Christianity that end up leaving more and more of the Bible behind.
Right.
Yeah, when you're
Which I
backed into a
support.
corner, you fight. That's when you fight your hardest.
Yes.
So maybe it's because they're, Catholics are becoming more open. Fingers crossed.
One would hope. I think.
We'll see.
I don't know.
I hope that this particular pope is helping to actually lead the way in a whole generation of younger Catholics, and those generations are of significant sizes.
Well, I think we have reason to believe that there might be some good things coming out of the Vatican soon, at least according to what we went over last time. I was
going to say, true. I could feel
Because
Dennis's like muscles tense. Some better
Well,
things.
you really
have reason-
you really need Jeff D here.
we have reason. We have reason to hope
that this pope
but I don't think.
doesn't say nope
Yeah.
to progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I'm really glad that they asked this question about whether or not people think that. So for white mainline Protestants, which includes large portions of my family, right? Because they never dipped like I did temporarily into being more radical Christians before leaving or whatever. Because a lot of them are still there. The fact that 51% still think that Trump's decisions and behavior as president have not had an impact either way, as far as, you know, whether or not his actions have encouraged white supremacist groups, is telling to me. And I think that it's not because they support Trump, at least in my personal experience with the people that I've interacted with. Literally the opposite of science and statistics, so I'm filling your ears with stuff that should be placed in a different category than the other stuff that I said.
That's right, anecdotes.
Anecdotes, not data, is that there's this tendency to like, okay, well, there's people that are radical on the left and people that are radical on the right, and the majority of us in the middle are just fed up with it, and we're just going to keep watching cable news. I watch more than Fox. I watch Fox and CNN, so it's balanced. And I ignore MSNBC for some reason. I'm not promoting any of these things. You shouldn't get your news from cable. But I don't see that as an indicator, like I know people do, that there's support for Trump there. I just see that as them not buying it. I don't know. What do you think about this narrative, just in general?
I mean, largely, I think most of these religious groups are probably getting the same news, but the way that they digest and, you know, distill it down there's a lot of differences very clearly, you know, and part of it is the way that they think because of whether or not it's a really hardline fundamentalist group or if it's a little bit more open, a little bit more liberal.
Yeah.
There is with the white evangelical Protestants, it's hardline and you double down. When you're shown to be wrong, you double down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
That I understand.
More of what doesn't work.
More so than with mainline Protestants and basically all the other groups.
Yeah. I am a little bit disappointed with this that they didn't separate the black Protestants into evangelical and mainline. But I did want to ask, Jenna, I'm interested to see what your view of this is or what view you have of this, because I don't think it gets touched on except when something bad happens, right?
What do you mean?
Like, so Trump's actions, decisions, and his words encouraging white supremacist groups. So when there's a shooting at a synagogue, for example, or Charlottesville happens, then there's sort of news coverage of it. But I don't know that it filters into, I don't mean to be that person, but I don't know that it reaches news sources that you bump into casually because your media consumption habits are very different than mine.
Yeah, I listen to about an hour of NPR in the morning while I'm getting ready. So that's about the daily news source that I get, with the exception of working with a podcast that is slowly teaching me a lot more. So yes, I hear little snippets of stuff about, this is what Trump said, and they'll play like a little clip. But and luckily the newscasters that participate on the show that I listen to, they're pretty non-biased. All humans are biased. You can tell which side they're on. Yeah. But they do a pretty good job, in my opinion, of at least asking the questions that the audience is always thinking, Mm-hmm. Oh, I was thinking that, and I'm glad they asked that. And so they give them a fair chance to talk. They interview Republicans, they interview Democrats, and they let them have a chance to speak. So I appreciate that. But I'm glad that the biases that they do have, I'm like, rock on! So that's, but at the same time, anytime I hear Trump speaking, I personally tune it out.
Okay.
He's got
I can
one of those.
completely understand that.
Yeah.
I do too.
So I've just gotten to the point where I don't really want to listen to him talk.
I very much understand that. And I think I get that. And then I think I did Dennis's approach as well. I actually am reading books about the way that he speaks and what effect that has as like influence.
Like what his dialectic style is.
Sure, we'll call it that.
Yeah.
So I'm actually probably more likely to listen to his specific words now. But I very much get that, not for the message. I very much get your approach. Do you... So what I take it is that you don't have a sense of whether or not that's a thing as far as his actions and words and the activity of white supremacist groups in the United States.
Outside of personal testimony, no.
Okay. That's very honest. And it's good. I wasn't going to point out that, you know, I'm actually kind of glad that you're in a position where that doesn't impact you. I wish everyone was. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, that's the Trump encouraging. What else we got?
Actually, before we run out of time, I did want to speak with Jenna a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically about a little something.
All right.
So if you watch on YouTube, and you're not just, you don't just listen to us as a podcast, you may notice that this is probably the second episode I have ever done where I did not have an alcoholic beverage in front of me.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I just finished doing a sober October, and it was a little, interesting, and it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And I know, Jenna, you have experience with AA and, your own, I guess you could call it experience with substance abuse.
Sobriety, substance abuse, addiction, yeah.
So I kind of wanted to get a little bit, of information from you. Like, what was it like for you when you first took those steps?
Well, I want to know what it's like for you first, because how do you feel? Because you're in that position right now.
Well, for me, I only wanted the plan was just to do a month, just to break the habit of drinking every single day, copious amounts, regardless of whether or not I had anything going on the next day. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to give this a try and see how it goes. Maybe if I can break that habit, I can then form better habits after that. Mm-hmm. And I thought that it was going to be like, get, DTs, delirium tremors and all that. I didn't end up getting that. I felt like some just mental clarity. Mm-hmm. That it felt like I was kind of coming out of a fog that I didn't realize I had been in for a significant amount of time. And I felt, I had more energy just in general, and I woke up feeling better, of course.
How do you feel now? Do you think that this is something you're going to continue or something you're going to do every year?
Yeah, I'm gonna cut down to weekends only.
Okay.
And go from there.
And see how that works?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been there.
Yeah.
So I started out refusing to believe that I could possibly be an alcoholic because I'm in my 20s.
Yeah.
So I had tried, I'll only drink wine. I won't do shots anymore. I'll only drink on the weekends. I'll there's so many different things that I've tried and failed because I'd make it a week or two and I'd have another drink and then I'm back to drinking all the time. And the thing with me, so there's different kinds of alcoholics. There's, for example, like a wet drunk is the kind of person who, when they stop drinking, they get physically ill. They can have hallucinations. They can have seizures. Their liver is so saturated with alcohol that they literally need it to survive. And so that's one kind of alcoholic. I was the kind of alcoholic that they call a binge drinker, meaning I could go a week or two easily without drinking. But when I do, I'm not stopping.
Okay.
And I also happen to be the kind of person that the more drunk I get, the more I insist I'm good to drive and I'm sober, and the more likely I am to fight you to drive, whether it's my car or someone else's car I'm so drunk I can't tell. And I'm belligerent. I'm blacked out. I don't remember that the next day. I used to black out almost every single time I drank. I have found out that that is common in people with PTSD. And people with PTSD, it is common that you will develop some kind of addiction or have struggled with substance abuse. So that's just another thing that I had to learn about myself. But so anyway, so that's the kind of alcoholic that I found out I was. And so I'd quit for so-and-so amount of time. I don't know how many times I've quit for a month. And then I start again. So it would be up to you at this point to determine, I guess I'll try stop drinking on the weekends. And if I can't do that, does that tell me something about myself?
Okay.
Because I wouldn't listen to those failures. I wouldn't listen. I'd be like, oh, well, I'll just try something else. And going to AA and hearing other people's stories and how many people can relate to how many times they've quit, and they call everybody the next day asking what did I do and who do I have to apologize to, and there's all these things that I didn't realize were traits of an alcoholic, and that got me to realize, oh my God, I was so convinced that I couldn't be one because I'm not a wet drunk, which I thought was the only thing that made you alcoholic.
I was gonna circle back to that.
Yeah. So that got me to finally start paying attention, and I found out I at the point of my life where I had made this realization at an AA meeting, I had tried to quit so many times, and I was currently at 2 months. I was trying for another 2 months, and I was like, my birthday's in 2 weeks. I was like, I'm not drinking.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to go to rehab. So I set up rehab as soon as I could, and it conveniently fell for the day after my birthday. So I've been sober for about 2 years and about 4 months now,
Wow.
3 months now. And I can say that I have gotten to the point where I don't need it. I don't think about it. I don't crave it. But if I go to a bar, or if I go to 6th Street, or if I go dancing, or if there's a bunch of people around me drinking, that's when it starts going through my mind, and I'm obsessing over it. And I'm like, the drink's way over there, and I'm like, and it's hard for me. Okay. So even at 2 years sober, I still struggle with that. So it's different for everyone. So you have to figure out what you have to do to keep yourself sober if you discover that you have a problem.
Okay.
Hope I didn't ramble too much.
No,
you're
not
good.
at all.
That's very
Straightforward.
helpful. Yeah.
So one of the things that struck me was I thought that I was going to have more of a physical reaction, and I didn't. I didn't have, the shakes or anything like that. And I ended up mentally putting myself down quite a bit for that. I'm like, oh, man, I thought I had a problem, but whatever. It's not that big a deal. And I feel like there is a societal kind of expectation of kind of being like overly macho that is instilled into us, especially, guys. And I have better tools in my toolbox to kind of examine that and realize that that's a load of crap and knock that down. But a lot of people wouldn't be able to analyze that and realize, oh no, you're putting yourself down, but not for a good reason.
Well, admitting to yourself that you have a problem isn't putting yourself down.
Yeah, but I feel like, and I'm going to bring religion into it, because I feel like religion, a lot of the time, very much downplays mental illness, downplays substance abuse, addiction, all that.
Downplays in what way?
That it's not that big a deal. It's not a real issue. What
it up
you
to
really
God.
need is to just, get you some more Jesus.
Oh, God.
And that also bolsters the segment of, society that, again, downplays, oh, well, if you're not getting full-on DTs, then you're just being a little wuss.
So you guys didn't have to accept a higher power to get to this place.
No, I wanted,
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about that aspect of society and religion, that kind of downplaying?
Well, go ahead.
So did you ever did you experience much of that?
Well, so the funny thing is that when I got my DWI, which, I mean, that was about 8 years ago, I was convinced that I didn't have a problem. I was, even after the DWI, and I had to take classes, I had to pay money for a lawyer, I had to pay money for the classes, for the court fee, I had to pay a lot of money. And even through all that, I was convinced that I wasn't an alcoholic. And when I got it, I was in training to become a youth minister at a Catholic church nearby. And after I got that DWI, they told me, oh, you know what, we don't really know if you're fit for this position. Maybe you need to try again later.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, wow, so that they pushed me away because they didn't want me to be in a position of authority over middle schoolers. As if I was some kind of infected person that they don't want me to contaminate the kids. When I had actually been developing some really close relationships with some kids, and some of them were having trouble at home and needed somebody to talk to. So it's interesting that that's how I was treated.
They recognized you had the wrong addiction.
Oh, yeah.
Then,
Well, yeah.
I mean, that's fair. That is fair.
well,
So that's kind of my experience with the religion part of it.
Yeah.
say, is it an addiction if there's no substance there?
Well, we can go
The
down a rabbit
substance
hole
of
with that
things
one.
not seen.
Oh God.
Well, I mean, I kind of want to get y'all's take on that more specifically, like how religion kind of affects the way that we view people who have, substance abuse problems and mental illness and all that.
I think you're right to say that it gets somewhat downplayed because all problems have one answer.
Right.
In Christianity.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to be that person, but that's what the religious teachings and the tradition of the churches is. And so this idea that, this is a different kind of problem. It's different than if your leg gets broken. It requires a different amount of treatment. It's not something that, your natural response to. That is in conflict completely with a Christian viewpoint, like a Christian worldview that is in total. I'm trying to find a phrase other than totalitarian because people associated with dictators and murder, whatever, that is, I guess, holistic is the nice way of saying
that.
It's the complete way in which you see the world because, the human mind causes things, doesn't really play with everything is caused by Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I think that I had stayed through that part of religion when I was in it. I was really in it.
All the way.
And I still couldn't get my substance abuse under control. I couldn't stop drinking. I actually around that time had a family member sit down and ask me and say, "Do you think that you could go a week without drinking?" And I go, "No." Why would I do that?
I don't want to.
Exactly, because I was like, I mean, I could if I wanted to, but I don't want to, so no.
That's what I've always said. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now ask yourself what happens when you want to. And then we'll come back to it.
So I am in a weird position that I've actually wanted to talk to you about. I've been like, I should ask Jenna about this. I should ask Jenna about this. Because there was a period of time, you remember this, where I was like, you know what, I'm going to not drink. And then I did that. And then I just drank O'Doul's, which is...
I've been doing that the past 2 weeks, kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
don't know
And then
already.
it was...
It's not lowering my calorie intake,
No,
which was part of the reason, was also just, drinking less alcohol to be more healthy and also just getting rid of the excess calories that you take in just from drinking.
yeah.
I started doing mocktails.
I was doing some of those too, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
like grapefruit juice and grapefruit soda with some salt with some jalapeno and lime.
That sounds
like,
delicious.
You can get a really badass drink for half the price of an alcoholic
Okay.
beverage.
Does that mean that I can still invite you to parties that happen at my house on the weekends without it being awkward if there's mocktails?
To be honest, with
No. Okay.
my personal struggle, I can't do house parties.
Okay.
That's why I haven't gone to Matt's yet, is because I'm just nervous about having so many people around. Because I've learned with taking away the alcohol also taught me that I'm an introvert. And that one of the reasons that I kept drinking is because I didn't have to work so hard to become an outgoing, sociable, light and free, happy
I can relate to
person. And so it's really, I mean, even 2 years later, it's still really hard for me to, because I had alcohol as that crutch for so long, for almost 10 years, it's really hard for me to become an open and outgoing person unless I'm comfortable. And so that's why, for example, I'm just now starting to come to things here, and I've been involved with this organization for almost a year now. It's because I have to feel comfortable to start opening up.
Okay.
Sorry, I went off a little bit.
No. That was an honest question. Yeah. I mean, mine was somewhat different because I did that, and it wasn't hard. At a certain point, I described it to someone as, I'm like, this seems somewhat like a social inconvenience for me because I'm always surrounded by people. And then I had O'Doul's, and then I needed O'Doul's, and someone had been like, oh, I got your favorite, type of drink. And I was like, oh, cool, great.
If I was stronger in my sobriety, I could definitely do that, and hopefully at one point I will be there. I just acknowledge
I'm
that
not
there
pressuring
yet.
you. My main question is, after a while, I was like, okay, this doesn't seem hard. It just seems like an awkward thing that I would like to not have. And there's a friend of mine who's had, at least one immediate family member when they were growing up that was an alcoholic that caused all kinds of problems. I think there was more than one. I can't remember. I have friends with a lot of fucked up life stories. So one of these fucked up life story friends had basically an alcoholic father, I think, as well as some other things. Actually, there's a couple of them. But I asked, like, this isn't hard. I have no cravings for this. I've just consuming a different beverage that tastes kind of the same and not getting drunk. Like, I don't know what that means about being an alcoholic. And their response, though they did not have like a struggle with sobriety, was, well, that means you're not an alcoholic. And it's possible that I'm just a habitual user and at times use it as a crutch and to blow off steam like I do with so many other things. But I'm a skeptic and want a second opinion that is more informed than mine.
Well, one of the biggest takeaways that I took from learning that I was an alcoholic is that nobody can tell you you're an alcoholic.
Okay. No one can tell, no one can provide.
No one can tell you that you're an alcoholic. You have to discover that
or
for
that
yourself.
you're not.
Or that you're not.
Yeah.
Or not, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. I mean, I'm not going to, I have to think about it as well. It's one of those, who knows what's in my mind but me.
Exactly. Who knows what you're struggling with, what you're actually doing, what you're actually craving, what you're actually feeling.
Okay.
I can't tell you.
Someone can't tell me, but my question is, my basic thing was, what are the signs that I need to look for? You've described some of them, right?
Trying to quit and not quitting. That's one of the biggest signs and giveaways that somebody is struggling with alcohol. And at the same time, if you tell that person they're an alcoholic, it's like telling somebody, a theist, that there's no God. You're just going to cement them more into their belief that you're wrong.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I had people constantly telling me, oh, Jenna, you're an alcoholic. You need to get your shit together. And I'm like, no, I'm not. So basically, I forgot where I was going with that. So the signs. I would say that's the biggest one.
Is the struggling to quit?
Somebody who says, I'm going to quit.
And then doesn't. So,
or I'm going to stop for this amount of time, and then doesn't.
And fails.
Okay, so I quit successfully and was sort of like, okay, well, I told myself a year or 6 months, but that was arbitrary. I don't know. And then I talked to friends who had experience with alcoholics and was sort of like, okay, well, I don't think I'm an alcoholic, so I guess I'm okay drinking again, but I'll save money. And then there was a day here at the library. It was while I was president, so I'm still wearing a suit, and it was really fucking hot outside, and the only cold beverages were beers, and that's when I picked up a beer again.
I remember that day.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. It was a decent day. I didn't get blackout drunk or anything, but
An alcoholic would
Good.
An alcoholic would say, I didn't get blackout drunk or anything?
An alcoholic would justify it.
Okay.
no matter what is said.
I want to bring it
But I
back
didn't get
to,
drunk. But I didn't do this.
No.
But I didn't do that. I'm
I
not
had
saying that you are an alcoholic.
I had
I'm just,
you can't tell me. You just said
Exactly.
No, it's yeah. I mean, I had a few. I don't think I tied one on that day at the library. Maybe I did. I don't
I
know.
want to bring us back to religion, though.
Yes.
Yeah, please.
It was a lot easier when I just had to make decisions for myself without asking an invisible friend. I'll say that. Because I've been in situations where, going through adolescence as an adult, as a teenage male with access to the internet and religion and ideas about what is morally acceptable and okay, there are times when I turned to the Lord for assistance and it did not come, and realized that trying to make someone else do this for me, please, I'm ready for it, that isn't going to bring force from outside, absolutely didn't help me at all.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
my personal anecdote
Yeah.
with that.
So you did AA, and I mean, AA is notoriously, kind of religious because they say you have to turn your
That's what I've heard.
life over to a higher power. You've expressed that that helped you leave religion because it diminished the idea of God. Which I mean, I can see that, but I'm not on board with it being a good thing for someone who is already an atheist. What are your views on AA in general?
So the thing is, and we're going to get a lot of pushback on this, my experience with AA is that they tell you have to have a higher power. You have to give it up because you can't do this yourself. And that's the thing is it wasn't pushing, that higher power has to be God. They used the word God in the big book, but no matter what group I went to here, everybody would tell me, oh, yeah, but that's just the word that they use. You can put whatever definition behind it you want. And I was like, oh, okay. So I kind of kept going and eventually came to naming my God, Mother Nature, because I felt like I could go out in Mother Nature and be, one with the universe, whatever. And so I didn't want that big man in the sky.
What was that
Right.
like?
What do you mean?
What was it like for your definition of God to shift from the big man in the sky to just reality?
Well, so even as a Catholic, when I got into this, I didn't like the idea of God because I had this Catholic perspective of it, right? And so I automatically kind of rejected that idea of, I have to pray to God. God hasn't done anything for me. And so allowing myself to change that to Mother Nature allowed me to accept the idea that I'm allowed to put another definition behind it. Because there are so many, even today, I struggle with asking for permission to do things in my own house because of the way that I was raised. Because you don't, when I tell you to jump, you ask how high. You don't question me. And so that was just one of the things, you don't question it. Because I had been taught that in so many different ways my whole life. So it allowed me to start questioning. So that's just my experience with it. Now, and a bunch of people have told me that, somebody will call their higher power a doorknob. It literally doesn't matter. Now, the idea, I think, behind that is that as an alcoholic, we've tried to quit ourselves. We've tried
Right.
so many times and
failed.
failed. So we have to acknowledge to ourselves that I can't do this alone. I've tried. I can't. So when they say higher power, my higher power has kind of shifted to community, because it's other people that got me out of it. I ultimately got me out of it.
yeah.
It was me that ended up doing the work, but I had to ask for help. I couldn't do it alone. So that's kind of the idea, and I think why they push the higher power so much is because for an addict, it's because we keep insisting, no, I can do it.
Right.
And that's the hardest thing, I think, to break. And that's why they push that so hard.
Yeah, I think that actually, if I can jump in here,
Yeah.
that actually appears to mirror a lot of the the struggles that I've had with my mental health issues as well is just the idea that I can do it on my own and that it's fine. And like, oh, I do research and whatever, but it took me a while to even get to the point where it's like, no, I'm very bad at using tools and calendars and schedules and to-do lists for a variety of reasons. But the conclusion being I'm bad at that. So I didn't have tools to help me deal with time management or, keeping a regular schedule, which is helpful for mood disorders and attention deficit disorder, neurodevelopmental disorders and things like this. And it's actually been mostly recently that I've realized how bad that has been for my ability to function.
And it could be one of the reasons that you keep drinking is because you feel overwhelmed with just life. I'm not trying to speak for you. I'm just throwing it as a possibility.
I'm looking at that, but there's a whole narrative behind this where I don't think it matches that.
Okay,
but,
sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm glad that you've said that, right? Like having a thing that is an escape.
Mm-hmm. That's what it is.
Whether it's beer or God, where you just go, well, fuck it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Not always super great.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm still not cool with the idea of like, an atheist having to just, suck it up and do AA instead of, a secular alternative.
Oh, no, you don't.
Yeah. There's lots of secular alternatives, smart recovery and stuff like that.
That was actually going to be what I was going to say. Like, yes, I can see how AA can be beneficial even if you are a theist, and even if you're on the fence, it can help you, come over the fence and, become an atheist like it did with you. And, that's wonderful. And I never thought of it that way. I never thought of the idea that it can be just this, God can be anything in this program, and that helps you diminish the idea of God. Mm-hmm. I never would have thought that, that can actually be helpful to help someone, leave religion.
I can also see how it can be hurtful though, because forcing somebody to accept the idea that they have to have some kind of higher power can kind of get people to enjoy the idea of thinking about a God and giving it up to God and all that. So I can see how it can be harmful. I'm just, in my experience, it was helpful.
Well, there are ways, so there are non-believing in supernatural powers ways of sort of going through the mental exercise of like, it's very much the feeling of someone going, well, it's in God's hands now. There's a way of having the, that's outside of my control sort of meditative technique that doesn't involve belonging to a religion even.
Well, there's something very, very therapeutic about being able to go to a room full of strangers. Some people but those people just know more of your secrets and you know more of theirs, and it's just like this pact. There's something very therapeutic about being able to go to this room and share some deep, dark secrets and things that you're really struggling with and not getting any feedback. Not finishing it with, oh, well, then I think you should do this, or, oh, this is what I did. And it's just, you can just say it, and it's out there, and then you can drop it. And it feels really good to be able to do that. So if that's something you need, then going to AA meetings is a good idea. But there's also different aspects of it. Some people really need the sponsorship, and I never did that because I kind of work on things in a different way. But some people really need to have a person that they can call at any time, because what they push is, you crave a drink and you find yourself at the liquor store. What do? You call your sponsor in your car in front of the store, say, hey, I'm here, I'm about to go get some alcohol, and they'll say, go to a meeting. Go to a meeting. And it's kind of like a go-to. It's something you can replace it with. So there's that aspect as well. But there are secular alternatives like Smart Recovery I found I really, really like, because that kind of gave me the tools that I didn't get from AA because I didn't have a sponsor. So that gave me some kind of way of figuring out what aspects of my life I'm actually struggling with, and it gave me an idea of a direction to go. Okay, well, this is what I'm lacking. This is what I need to start working on. And it had, ideas for how to start doing that. So it just kind of depends on the person. It depends on what you need and what actually helps. And so that's, you can't tell anybody else what to do. That's what I struggle with the most.
I imagine the Secular Therapy Project might have resources for that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think recovering from religion, not directly, but they have many resources and places to point you. So that would be a good thing to look up. Also, Smart Recovery. In Smart Recovery, do they have the same community aspect? Because you said my higher power now is somewhat community, and then you described being able to be in a room of partially strangers and partially people you know that are there that will listen. Right? Is there something like that in Smart Recovery, or is it mostly focused?
I believe that there are. Actually, I think that there's more
meetings.
Online meetings.
Okay.
Like a chat room. I don't know how present they are. I think there might be 1 or 2 meetings in town, but in AA there's 50.
Well,
so it is more accessible if you need that one-on-one human contact.
yeah.
But I do believe, and I don't know for sure, but I do believe that Smart Recovery has that as an option.
The group that piggybacked on the religious institutions is more abundant. I am unsurprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the big book was written by, it was a church group. And
Yeah.
This.
It's interesting to get your perspective as a former theist, now atheist, who has gone through that, and
It's going.
it helped you actually cross the line into becoming an atheist, which is really not something I would have ever expected.
Yeah, it's sort of like the way that believers would expect that reading the Bible would strengthen your faith.
Yeah, I always thought of AA as, I hated the idea of AA because it had that religious
Predatory.
That too. Also, they don't share any of their data, so we don't know how effective
It's
they are.
anonymous.
It's anonymous.
I've never signed anything.
Yeah, it's sort of like, it's also, the structure of it resists data, so I don't know why they're reporting any data about success rates.
Most people
if they
wouldn't
don't.
go if there was data.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we
Well,
don't
we're all
know what
envious
their
of
success rate is.
the amount of non-believers in England, and they have a state religion.
Yeah. True.
There's significant cultural differences.
I'm sure.
So there's this, and the difference that people point to, sorry, this is a very different topic. I didn't want to come
No, it's
off.
fine.
Our
I think
recovery
it's very good. Thank you.
chat. Yeah. If you need help, we hope that you find it.
Wherever you find it.
Wherever you find it. Yeah. I would rather that you went to church and prayed every day and weren't struggling with alcoholism than struggling with alcoholism and a non-believer.
Yeah, because you can't live a healthy life if you're struggling with addiction. Like that takes over. That's the definition of addiction, is it takes over your life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sort of my thing is literally in a person's life, the lowest priority for me is what they think about spiritual stuff. Kind of. No. For me,
I'm going to disagree.
When it becomes an issue is because it affects the things in their life that
Right.
actually matter.
Right.
Whether your God is Krishna or Jesus, to me, doesn't make a difference.
Right.
Right?
It's the fact that you don't know how to tell what's true and false.
Yes. Or that you think that, your God has told you not to give medicine to your ailing child or whatever, right? But you were talking about being envious of atheists in the UK and them having a state religion. And
Well, not envious. I'm just pointing out that they have a high number of non-religious people.
Yes.
And did the state religion have something to do with that?
I think very much the culture of the state religion did.
Mm-hmm.
North Korea has a state religion and has had the exact opposite effect. Zing, boom. That's the most succinctly I've ever said that. I'm just gonna
Good job.
stick with
Congrats.
that.
All right.
Yeah. Kevin is so happy right now. I'd be like, yeah, no, having Shakespeare in comedy probably helped as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying?
I already lost it. Yeah.
Shakespeare makes people forget a lot of things.
Okay. Do we want to move on? What do we want to move on to?
Well,
better question.
I think we have other stories. The last thing that I would say about these statistics, and I will say this as succinctly as I possibly can. They asked everyone in it, Americans' identification with cultural, political, and religious labels. One of the labels is America First. 65% of the people in this survey said that described them. 86% of white evangelical Protestants said that described them. 76% of white mainline Protestants said America First. 69% of black Protestants said America First. 77% of white Catholics said America First. Let's see, Hispanics, it didn't come in the top 3. Unaffiliated didn't come in the top 3. Non-Christian religion didn't come in the top 3. Other Christian, 75% said America First.
Isn't that going against religion?
I don't know, because I think quite honestly that the majority of the people that answer that question don't know where that phrase came from and don't know what the
No, they
America
don't.
First movement was in the 30s. It was the closest movement that America had, arguably until recently. In the 21st century, that is the closest we got to having an active fascist party in this country. That's what those words mean. Those words were, we don't like these immigrants coming over here wherever the fuck they come from. We don't like them being different. That's what that entire movement was. Just Google the history of that phrase and whether or not you support the tax bill or, I don't like that NATO takes our money or whatever. Know what the phrase America First means before you agree that that's what describes you. Because I hope to fuck that these people are wrong about whether or not America First describes them, because it's hard to imagine that it does.
I know what the America First thing means, but even if I didn't, I wouldn't agree with that statement.
If I didn't, I might.
No, I definitely would
I
not.
wouldn't.
I'd say
If you got
the
this-
rest of the world, you're going to just toss it out? You're going to say, fuck you? No.
Well, they're putting it behind God too,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
Well, no. So
in front of God.
So more. Okay, so white evangelical Protestants, 92% said spiritual described them, which is higher than America First. So it wasn't a
Okay.
pick one.
It's close though.
It was pick. Yeah. They picked multiple,
Yeah.
right? Also, 14% of all of them said that deplorable described them as well.
That was my favorite.
Yeah,
That was my
I just
all-time
sort of
favorite.
But America First is like, we're number one. Well, no, we fucking aren't. We demonstrably aren't. So,
Yeah.
so
Well,
that's obviously wrong.
But they think we are.
Fuck, you know?
I was going to say, you don't have to go back that far before I don't know the history of that phrase and wasn't a non-believer.
Yeah.
And I still have just, the tinge, the little bit of frame of nationalist is the wrong word, patriotic plus
Extremism?
tendencies. I'm not an extremist. I just have the entirety of my life viewed the power of the American government as a force for good in one way or another.
I just think
So
boasting is the wrong way to go
yeah,
about it.
actually, America First probably wouldn't have appealed to me. Something like
I can see
American
it.
leadership would have definitely captured,
I don't like
my heart and soul. Yeah, but you're different than me 6 years ago. So
That's true.
Anyway.
very much. Oh yeah, shoot, we got candles, and also the police are here to arrest us because we said America First was.
That's right.
Uh-oh. Yep.
All right. Anyway, sorry.
Wait, bring up the deplorable thing.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is going to be
We
great
had-
radio for those of you listening to on us.
Yeah. So 14% of all of the respondents.
That'd be graphic 12.
The big. Graphic 12. Bring that up.
Very last thing.
The very last. Yeah, and then we've got actually a couple other stories to get in here real quick.
I think we got about
Rambling
5
man.
minutes.
So yeah,
Yeah.
14% of those polled
Said
that-
I'm deplorable.
yeah, I am deplorable, and that's what that's what I identify as. Okay, so 14% roughly of the population is unreachable. Just give up on them.
I was gonna say I wouldn't say that. I would say whatever your efforts are to reach out to them, they're gonna reach out to people that are reachable as well.
Okay.
Understand
people
that
don't
there's
matter.
a portion of the
They don't matter
population that
anymore.
isn't.
I'd have to
They
hesitate.
matter to me because I'm a humanist, and it doesn't matter if you're wrong. I still that's sorry. It sounded like you. You have human rights, and I will stand for you as well.
If I was asked that question, I would have to hesitate before answering because, I'm not going to use the definition that it was given during the political climate. I'm going to use the word deplorable as it's defined in the dictionary and go, am I? I could be in some ways. I've got loads of privilege. Does that make me an asshole? Maybe.
I would say, Denis Loubet, you are not one to be deplored. So you're fine.
I'd probably eventually say, no, I wouldn't call myself deplorable, but
I don't think
others could. I mean, it's one of those things where are you great? Well, that's not for me to say, is it? That's for other people to say.
All right. Well, there's at least, I think, one story that we want to get to before.
Prosperity preacher to join Trump's White House.
I was going to say,
we're gonna have to burn through this.
Yeah, we're going to have to burn through this the way that...
Televangelist Paula White Cain, a longtime spiritual advisor to President Donald Trump, will join the White House staff advising an office that steers taxpayer funds to faith-based organizations.
I wonder what advice she's going to give.
I don't know. It could be up in the air. Flip a coin. The evangelical pastor will join the House of Public Liaison as an advisor for the Trump administration's Faith and Opportunity Initiative. Wow, Faith and Opportunity. One of those great names again. Initiative. The Times reported, citing an unnamed White House official. A leaker. Trump created the initiative with an executive order last year, of course he did,
whole cloth,
to make sure faith-based organizations working in areas such as fighting poverty and improving health care, education, and strengthening marriage and family have access to government funding. The initiative also seeks to ensure that these organizations can act according to their religious beliefs while receiving taxpayer funds, even if those beliefs result in discrimination against queer Americans and others.
Wow.
Yeah, I was going to say he couldn't just use the Faith and Community Initiatives office or whatever it was that W created that Obama worked with a bit. He had to create his own Super Jesus department.
Yeah,
of
just
thing.
a whole cloth. He just invented a new position to throw a prosperity gospel fundamentalist into.
I mean,
in order
she'd
to
given him
funnel
so
more
much
money
good advice.
Just to get an idea of what advice she's liable to give here, White claims she contributes a month's pay every year as a seed and so has called on others to contribute their own firsts in the form of wages for a day, week, or entire month.
What?
Yeah. Oh, you've never had anyone ask you to plant a seed with your money.
Prosperity.
Money's seed.
Bullshit.
Yeah. I'm not going to say, oh, you're lucky that you were a Catholic.
Doofus
but
asshole.
You're lucky you weren't there, but for the grace of an empty sky, go we through an evangelical upbringing.
We can throw those quotes up on the screen.
Oh, yeah. Let's get can we get those.
Quote number 2, when you honor this principle, it provides the foundation and structure for God's blessings and promises in your life. It unlocks deep dimensions of spiritual truths that literally transform your life. When you apply this, everything becomes a divine alignment for his plan and promises for you. When you don't honor it, whether through ignorance or direct disobedience, there are consequences.
Dennis, I don't know whether you intended to read that in that way or whether it just occurred naturally because of the content.
Yeah,
I'm cringing over here.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's better than reading it through clenched teeth.
So give Paula White
a government salary
give
and a
her,
pension.
Yeah, give her your 1/12 of your yearly income, or there will be consequences.
You're not giving it to her, you're giving it to God.
It's
right.
up
God
to.
needs your money right now.
The reason is God lays claim to all firsts, White wrote on her website. So when you keep for yourself something that belongs to God, you are desecrating what is to be consecrated to God.
If I hit my head against the microphone, I feel like Vern would kill me. That's the only reason it hasn't occurred.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah. I was going to say, in case you needed motivation to sign up for the Patreon for the nonprofits, patreon.com/thenonprophets, no matter how much you give, we're going to get outspent. But if you're willing and able, please, for the love of fuck, help us, because we're getting outspent.
I think so many people have taken biblical scriptures out of content on this to say stuff like, well, Jesus was a refugee, White said in a CBN interview published Monday. Yes, he did live in Egypt for 3.5 years, but it was not illegal. If he had broken the law, then he would have been sinful and would not have been our Messiah.
That's not...
So
The Messiah was literally a military figure that was supposed to overthrow shit. She doesn't understand that in international law that okay.
Anything I say could be actionable, so I won't say anything.
yeah.
That's I for the sake of the show, that is the best. I would say it's amazing that the political party that's big government, any government is bad, welfare and entitlements, those are evil. But Jesus is going to get a subsidy from the government because Jesus needs the government's money. He's the churches are just struggling so hard right now.
Yeah,
so hard for the mega churches right now. Oh, I weep.
So you didn't hit
welfare.
skip. You didn't hit skip on your phone. That last quote that came out of nowhere. I threw in some just random bad quotes from her.
Right.
So
it gives a good picture.
It felt out of context because it was.
Paints a picture. Yeah.
I was gonna say that's good that you own that. I wish that Fox News would.
Yeah, that was her responding to people saying, "Hey, isn't this stuff at the border and locking kids up in cages? Isn't that awful? Isn't that kind of
people say that
anti-biblical?"
Jesus was a refugee, but he wasn't. She said, not addressing the reality of the situation that she was asked about, which is that children and lots of people, including U.S. citizens, have been summarily locked in cages.
We know what kind of a thing she is.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Well, I don't think she is aware of the harm. Most people aren't.
All right.
So,
shall I take us out or shall I?
We got one more.
We got one more.
State Department's promotion of being a Christian leader on website criticized for potential violation of Constitution.
Why is the word potential there?
So
I don't know.
We just had it up. It was a picture of Mike Pompeo.
Right.
On the actual government-run website.
Yep.
A picture of him with the words, being a Christian leader.
Yeah.
That is on a government website.
That's on a government website.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, there it is right there.
It's a little bit of a gray area because being a Christian leader was the name of the speech that he gave.
Doesn't freaking matter.
So did he speak about how...
Did
he speak about both sides of it?
Not even remotely.
Well, so I don't even think it's that, because even if you discussed being a Christian is bad from a government office is something I would oppose as well.
That would
as
also
a
be
real
bad.
American.
Right.
Well, I could see it if it's actually non-biased, and if you throw in perspective from somebody who thinks it's good and perspective from somebody who thinks it's bad, and you don't insert your opinion into it, then I think that could be a legitimate topic.
I think that that's a legitimate topic for not the government.
Yeah, it had a transcript of his entire speech.
Yeah.
It had
What does secularism say about that?
Well, what does the Constitution say about that? It says probably depends, but
What does the Establishment Clause of the Constitution say?
Many strong words about the freedom of conscience.
Yeah, so again, I feel like it's a little bit of a gray area because it's not saying...
Because it's the name of a speech that he gave.
Exactly.
And, it is on a government website.
Now they can make a speech out of titles for speeches and have it say any religious thing they want it to say and say, that's any
the
quote
title
you
of
take
my
out of it,
speech.
that's just a title of a speech.
The title of my speech is John 3:16. For God so loved the world. And this is going to be pinned at the top of my government page.
Exactly. You could go down that road. You could do that.
Yeah.
Which
unless we put a freaking stop to it.
I wonder if you could put the reverse. Being an atheist leader.
Oh,
right.
Well,
that would be unacceptable.
Let's burn you at the stake.
You know what we should do?
Being a leader in the satanic temple is what I see coming around here.
You know what we should do? We should put some kind of clause in the Constitution that would make that explicitly, not allowed.
Yeah.
Say, I was struggling not to spit my
If
hood out
only there
and to
was-
unmute my mic.
If
to be
only
like,
there was some way.
if only, you know, the founders of our country had written a constitution based on Enlightenment principles instead of on Christian nationalism. Wouldn't that have been great?
You wouldn't have to worry about the
You'd never have to worry about breaches of
the
an
slippery
establishment
slope.
clause.
Yeah.
Well, can I take us out?
Yes. This
Yes.
has been a weird episode.
All right. It has
This
been
has
a weird episode.
Very
Sorry.
bizarrely structured.
Well, anyway.
I feel like that's mostly my fault.
Yeah.
No, I like it. I think we got some graphics up. We got
Yeah.
some advice going.
Yeah.
It was fun. We talked about some stuff.
We did.
We showed up and we talked about some
Some
stuff.
important stuff.
If you didn't like it, blame me.
Yeah.
No.
I was gonna say I'm not gonna blame you, but I'm also not gonna invite more criticism from the internet.
All right.
Actually, you know what? I live on that. Bring it
Here
on.
we go.
Take us out.
Punks.
This show was the best thing that ever happened to anyone in the history of mankind. Even though you will be hearing echoes of our next episode traveling back in time to reach your ears, you can witness the awe and majesty of it in real time 2 weeks from now on the 17th of November. Until then, do everything you can to stay alive so you won't miss it.
What are we doing, man? What are we doing?
No, you're done.